Don't touch my.
Welcome back to Whoscussion. We're here on Part B. We're here to talk to you today about The Next Life, or as I like to call it, Little Jambity Bud. Because that guy just creeped me out the whole time I was listening.
I also like to call it Zagreus versus Rassilon versus the Doctor.
Yes. The Grey Rassilon Doctor! The ultimate fusion dance! We're gonna defeat you, Freezer! So yes, as Harriet Scully's pointed out there is a heck of a lot going on in this story. This story starts off talking about the Foundation, which is the religion Keras is from. So there's some Utermizans that are trying to convert a group of natives of some random place, another zone.
It seems to be another...
it's another planet because the Doctor got his TARDIS back.
Yeah,
that's right.
We'll find out later that it is definitely another planet. An interesting... Well, I think it's a moon that they're talking about. That it's actually on a moon, but I guess it doesn't really matter. It's still...
Cool, so now I've finally got an image of what I think the natives look like. They're the Ewoks.
They're supposed to just be like Aboriginal, but white instead of dark.
Right, okay, cool. Getting super PC there, Big Finish.
Yep. And they have two hearts, like Time Lords.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, they do have two hearts. And which is considered rudimentary by Keep. But anyway, this story, there is so much that happens in the story. Holy crap. So we start off with the Foundation trying to convert these beings to the religion of the Foundation. And they're led by a guy called Guidance, who we find out is a really important person in the life of one of our characters. Which blew my mind, by the way. I didn't even remember that plot point when I re-listened to this. I was just like, oh my actual god, holy crap.
That's great. And then we also introduced to a person named Keep.
Yes, Keep. So what happens here is the TARDIS goes to materialize, but it refuses to, and essentially spits the Doctor, Charlie, and Keras out willy-nilly all over this moon place, and they all wake up in different situations. Keras wakes up and finds a character by the name of Guidance, who turns out to be... I'm pretty certain we can say it. Can we say it, or is that a spoiler?
Actually, that's not what happened first off, though.
Oh no,
First off, Charlie and Keras end up basically being kidnapped by Rassilon and the Croaker.
Oh yes, that's right.
And they go through some interesting things there. Basically this episode is a cluster F word.
Yes, it is a cluster F word. So much stuff is happening that I'm trying to remember where it happens. But yes, as Harry Scully brings up, Keras and Charlie are put into these dreamscapes. Charlie is showing a timeline if she didn't hop on the... she's showing the timeline of what's happened because she went on the R101. So the boy she replaced on the R101, the steward, he grew up to become a priest.
Yep.
Which is interesting. I suppose when you find out you didn't blow up in a ball of fiery death, you'd probably seek the love of God. So, it's pretty out there. We've also got Keras, whose dreamscape that he's in. He's with Lyda just before the company came.
Just before they get married.
Yeah, just before they get married. Just before the company comes, you find out that Lyda actually paid the church to get rid of Keras, which means their church is essentially Scientology.
Yeah, well... I guess. I mean, I don't want them suing us or anything, but
please do not sue Whoscussion.
Please don't sue us, Tom Cruise. Please don't. Anyway, they seem like they're controlled a lot by wealth, and it's simply because they need it for many of the things that they like to do as a church, such as traveling to this planet for one thing, and this moon, that sort of stuff. But that's one of the main points that it seems to be about the Foundation, is that they are very controlled by where their money is coming in, such as Dakar Keep, the bad, the really bad guy. He has control over the Foundation by the fact that he's given them crap tons of money as well. Just in the same way that Lyda had found Kyrus, basically like that butt, and paid for him, sort of like a common slave.
Yes.
But he was okay with that, you know.
He was indeed, to get away from the Foundation. It seems like before the company came, he was turned away from the Foundation. Basically himself, he had turned away from the faith, and was looking to move out. What's interesting about that, though, is because the Foundation was a faith his family held.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. That's something his daddy was really into. And you know, how does the family business, religion. And also, so Charlie Kira's immediately knows that it's the Croaker straight away. He's like, the Croaker's doing this. Charlie takes a wee while to click on. It's not until her mother's avatar within the dreamscape says the most wonderful being, and she's like, the Croaker, right? So
Someone, come on.
come on. So the Keras and Charlie break out of their hypnotic bond to the Croaker. They find out Rassilon's there. Rassilon each offers both of them different things for betraying the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't know what that is. You're never told until a little bit later on. By a little bit, I mean nearly the end of the story. The story is probably the longest Eighth Doctor run as well, because it's six episodes.
It's 2 episodes longer than pretty much everything else.
It's so long, but not in a bad way. It definitely doesn't drop the ball. I don't feel like there's any pace lost.
No.
Yeah, what's interesting though is that when we get to the Doctor, he gets picked up by a character played by Daphne Ashbrook, who played the first ever Eighth Doctor companion, and she is told before they have a meal to give grace, which was the name of her companion character. That was amazing. I absolutely love that little
the
nod.
The Doctor's like, Grace? There's no Grace here.
Is this like Grace?
Grace isn't here. What are you talking
Grace
about?
isn't here. Fox is going to sue us if she is. So, so it was interesting. Her name is Perfection. She is married to a person called Keep. Keep is a wife beater.
I suppose this isn't really a spoiler because we find out in the few minutes in the beginning of the episode, he is some sort of monster that sucks the life out of things.
Yes, he killed a little girl called Jamberry Bud, or as I like to say, Jamberry Bud. And he kills her and ends up pinning it on the Doctor. Mm-hmm. The natives aren't the sharpest tools in the shed, so they believe it. When somebody kills someone in their culture, they hunt that person. So they give them a head start, and the only way that they can get out, be proven innocent, essentially, is by surviving the night of being hunted.
And then, if they win and they survive that and actually get over it, then they get to chase down their accuser instead.
That is exactly true. It's pretty out of it. Keep has a blunderbuss, which I love. I can just imagine him being like masculine with a giant bloody mustache with one of those safari hats, being all like.
I don't know why, but I see him as like a really tall, skinny French man. It's probably the accent.
Probably the accent. Yeah, he speaks French, and he's in the Divergent universe, so
which is quite interesting.
As a listener, you're wondering why can he speak French, which is out of it. So his wife, Perfection, basically is afraid of him, which is interesting.
Yes.
And he is a violent wife beater. It's something I found really interesting for Doctor Who to tackle. Is this an abusive marriage? And Perfection kind of just gives in, which unfortunately happens in many domestic cases. So I thought that was interesting for Big Finish to try and tackle there. And I think they did it without coming off as preachy.
It did get a bit weird there at the end, though, and you find out exactly what's going down.
So Keres, after coming out of his dreamscape, he bumps into Guidance. Guidance, is it a spoiler if I say who Guidance is?
I guess. Yeah, it's kind of.
Okay, just know that guidance is an important person in the life of carers.
Well,
So
I mean, let's think of it like this: the guidance is the leader of the foundation,
he is indeed.
um, and Keris is part of that foundation. They've definitely met before. That is definitely obvious, of course, but they are a little bit more important than most people realize, and that's where the connection is a bit more interesting. So when you find that out, especially considering it's a cliffhanger on one of the episodes, so
Yeah.
yes, it is a spoiler. Don't even go there.
Fine, I know, but it's so cool. So anyway, so we've got that perfection and keep are just they're bloody interesting characters. I really like perfection. She for whatever reason wants to shag the Doctor's brains out.
Wow,
Um, it is Paul McGann, and she is Daphne Ashbrook. So Perfection's really keen on being with the Doc. She's pretty keen on the Doc killing Keep and then marrying her instead.
Yep.
But the Doctor,
Which is really interesting when it gets under.
yeah, definitely.
Ooh.
Woo! So the Doctor ends up putting as many pieces together as he can. Figures out that Perfection is kind of not really who she says she is, but she kind of is. And Keep definitely isn't who he says he is at all. And it all ends up culminating with the Doctor saying, "Hey, look, let's go confront Rassilon." Everyone who ends up confronting Rassilon, the natives kind of get forgotten about. But does Keep eat them?
I think Keep eats them. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think Keep eats them all.
Keep eats them all. Keep's a bit of a giant douche.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lovely giant douche though. So even though he's a terrible wife beater. There's not a heck of a lot I can do without spoiling heaps of stuff. So I'll hand it on to Harriet Skelly there. But there's one thing I really want to spoil. The identity of Keep, man. Seriously.
Yeah, so good, so good. So I suppose something that we don't have to spoil is that the way that this universe, what is revealed in this universe, in this episode, is that the universe that they're in, the timeless universe, basically timeless river, timeless universe, that is here instead of it basically how we sort of thought it was, is that it doesn't have. It basically doesn't have a central point sort of deal. Like they don't have a way. It doesn't have a way for time to navigate properly. Yeah. So instead of it, the way that our universe works, where it will strictly continue on in a continuous motion forward, and nothing really you can do to stop that. The only thing you can do is possibly take your time travel device and go back through the time vortex.
Yeah.
The difference in this one is that time seems to travel in a circle.
Yes.
It all sort of revolves around itself, where life ends and comes back in the exact same notion that it did before. And that is the notion of this universe, is that at some point in its future, something happens, causes it all to end, and then it all starts again, exactly the same. The only thing that's changed over this infinite cycle is that the Doctor and Charlie arrived.
Yes, and that's really shaken the whole ballpark for everybody. And Lord Rassilon's kind of banking on that.
Yeah, he was kind of hoping that would get him out of there.
Yes, he is.
But we'll find out how that goes.
Because the problem with Rassilon is he is in Neverland. Well, no, not Neverland. Zagreus, actually. The Doctor finds out that Rassilon's straight up betrayed him, which probably wasn't a smart move on Rassilon. If Rassilon had been his friend the whole way through, it would have been a good thing. We definitely see this anger towards Rassilon play out in his later incarnations as well, especially with 12. So it probably wasn't a good idea for Rassilon to stab the Doctor in the back, like he did, especially since Rassilon's his great grandfather. So it probably wouldn't be cool to be stabbed in the back by your ancestor. But
yeah, it is interesting, and the questions that it poses right at the end. Yeah, like really stuck.
This.
Yeah, just like stuck real on the tip of my tongue. Just-
I love the end so much. Uh, it's so brilliant. But definitely, unfortunately, we can't spoil this, even though the little 5-year-old inside me wants to. He wants to shout at the top of his lungs what's happening in the story. But you'll definitely have to go listen to it.
We'll spoil it next week.
Yeah. We'll spoil it next week. But yeah. So with this done, I suppose this brings us to a time where Harriet Skelly and I have recently discovered that there is a heck of a lot of content before Charlie joins the TARDIS.
Oh, yes.
So, from here, we won't go straight onto the next story, Terra Firma, which is after the story, after the next life. We'll be instead going back, and we'll be going over the audios that are before Charlie and the comics that are based before Charlie. We won't go over the novels. I know there's heaps of them, and people probably want us to, but it's just unfortunately, we don't have the time. It's definitely a time thing.
It's a long thing. Like we could possibly like get one of them done a month.
Yeah, maybe.
But even then, it's a big maybe. Like we just do not have enough time during the week. I mean, I barely have enough time during the week as it is to get through all the things we currently have to do. So adding a novel on top of that, not helpful.
Yeah, I think maybe in the future when we've run out of TV Who, if that ever happens, when we get to a point that where maybe we're caught up to the show and the show's not on air at the moment, maybe we could do one novel a week.
Yep. After our first regeneration.
Yeah, exactly. After we've completely regenerated, we'll be able to do that. But yeah, so we'll be going over the audios and the comics all based before Charlie. And so that's what part B will be from now on going forward. So thank you very much for sticking with us through the Divergent arc. But we'll be going back in time to go and travel with Samantha Jones.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for joining us on Whoscussion. Again, a big thank you to Brax Etel for joining us in part A there, even though it was short-lived, but it was still greatly appreciated. And thank you, as always, to Harriet Skelly.
Yes.